Yeah.
Dude, speaking of your back, man, what is going on? What happened at the championships? Can you kind of like dive into a little bit of that for me?
Yeah. Well, I was having a really good season, obviously. I was very fit. I was feeling really confident going into championships. I was running splits faster than I was running at North American championships. I felt like this was the year. And about 6 weeks out from championships, I was on the track. The day after doing a pretty hard workout in here where my back had been tightening up a bit and my back like spasmed and locked on the track. And I had to drop out of that workout and my back stayed in spasm. I've had back tightness often in races, but never like this. And it spasmed so hard that I was stuck that way for like 6 days. Like I couldn't really train. Slowly but surely, got it needled out, worked on it, did a lot of PT work. And then the next week back on the track, same thing. Spasmed again. It was like 3 days. And I hadn't been too concerned about it the first time. Like it was like, we have 6 weeks. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Now we're a month out and I've now been in major back spasm for the better part of 2 weeks. And I'm going, okay, we need to figure this out. Because every time I push myself, all of a sudden the back just goes. I can do like light workouts. I could run slower. And so basically I started spending the next 4 weeks getting needled 2 to 3 times a week, cupping, stretching specialists, chiropractor, full work, PT 3 days a week, like just devoting my body to just shaking this back issue. And I tested a Hyrox sim 2 weeks out and I had a back spasm during it. And I was like, it's kind of a crapshoot if I'm going to be able to pull this off at championships or not. And so, I flew over early and I went and found some specialists in London to work on me every day that I was there on the ground before the race. And I was not confident that I could get the body where I needed to be, but I was optimistic that like I could make it work for an hour.
Right.
And when the race actually started, it became apparent in the second run that was going to be really hard, that I was already really tightening up a lot, and I was laying off. I was trying to start slow and see if I could ease.
So right after the ski.
Yeah, I was pretty tight on the ski, and then I was trying to lay off the run a little and just like, let's see if the body will warm up. Mm-hmm. And then I got to the sled push, and on my first length of the sled push,
sure,
the back went full spasm and pretty much as hard as it's done. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't release for the rest of that race. Yeah. And so for me, it kind of became one of those things where I was like, okay, this is over. Like your chance of winning championships is gone.
Right.
But at the same time, I can, just keep fighting.
Yeah. Which you did.
And finish. And I think that, there's more to racing than just winning and losing. Mm-hmm. So much of it comes down to like being in those battles and being willing to fight and being willing to being willing to go into those events, challenge yourself and grow from them. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to tell my daughter like, okay, like I went to this huge race. It's a big deal. It's the thing I trained for all year. Things went wrong from the jump and I didn't just quit. I wanted to.
Teaching kids diversity right now, especially during a time period when diversity is not something that, especially younger generation, wants to get involved with, is the most important lesson I think that they can learn, because that kind of grit, and we all saw it live, as we were watching, that race and we're like, wow, Dave's supposed to be somewhere around here and he's not. Like we haven't seen him, for a couple of laps, like what's going on? And then they started to kind of like make some announcements. And I knew right away, man. I was like, what you just said about, that commitment to the race, only a racer can actually say that, right? Somebody who is seasoned and has some experience kind of like going into it. Looking around this room, first of all, like we're talking about, it spans back at least a decade, right? Goes back to like when you were doing, started doing some Deka races and stuff. I want to go back to that time a little bit. And the origin story for some people is probably especially for me, one of the most important things. I say it all the time. I love watching Wolverine kick ass in these Marvel movies, but nothing got me more excited than the origin story for, Wolverine and the X-Men, right? I want to know where did you come from, and where did the history of your athleticism come from, that drive?
Yeah, I mean, I've been identifying as an athlete for, most of my life. I as a kid, I played a lot of individual sports. Like obviously I was into soccer. That was like the big team sport that I played as a kid. My parents threw me in there, and it really took like immediately. And I was a pretty good soccer player and made it up to like, travel teams and doing that. And then I was, in the summer I was swimming, and I did some winter swimming too. And that's where I started getting my first experience like racing. And I wasn't like a natural swimmer, but I was a natural athlete. And so I did fairly well. I'd make all-stars in some events. I nearly had the pool record. I think I missed the pool record in the breaststroke by like a hundredth of a second or something.
And you're still living it up, huh?
I was still
let it go.
like this. And I really thought I was going to have it. But no, I wasn't a swimmer. I was built more like a runner.
Right.
And I was string bean, long legs. And when I got to high school, I was still playing soccer, but running. I started running in 6th grade with the varsity team.
A lot of running in soccer.
Yeah, but I started running cross country with the varsity team in 6th grade and training with those guys. So I started cranking out, 30, 40 miles a week.
Was that your event, cross country?
That was my primary that I loved.
Yeah.
That was my first love. Really true love was running cross country. And then joined the wrestling team my freshman year of high school, and was named captain of the team my freshman year because coach saw like I practiced so hard. And then he would just be like, you know what, Magida, take the team through conditioning, because it was like we were done when I said we were done. And he knew that I would push them harder than he would.
So how old were you?
I was 14, I think. And so I had the 15, 16, 17-year-olds in the team. They had
drive.
They had to listen to what I said. And it was like, no, we're not done yet. We're still going. And so they hated it, but it was good. And so I was captain of that team through high school, and then track was, I think you just have to do it when you're a cross-country runner. But I never loved track. I never had the true track legs. And then when I got to college, I was recruited to run. I was recruited to wrestle, but I didn't want to do it. And so I ended up giving up the wrestling, and then eventually dropping out of the running. And I was like, I want to do something that I want to do. Instead of being like a normal college kid, I was like, I still like have this call to be an athlete.
Yeah.
So I joined the football team. I walked on.
Oh, wow.
I made the football team. I trained with them all year. I played spring ball with the football team.
What weight were you training in for wrestling?
Wrestling. So my senior year of high school, I was 142 pounds.
Okay, wow.
Okay. By the time I had another growth spurt, I had growth spurts basically each of the last 3 years of high school. I went from the shortest kid in my grade to the height I am now, about 6 feet tall. And so I get to college, I start filling out. It's just happening. My body's just changing.
Yep.
I'm not able to run the times that I was able to run before all of a sudden. So that's why I ended up stopping running. I just got really discouraged by it. I was having injuries because I was growing so much.
Right.
So I joined the football team, and I ended up having no injuries playing football, which is remarkable. Yeah. I'm going out there, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm getting blindside hit all over the place by guys who've been playing their whole lives.
Sure.
Collegiate level football players.
Welcome to football.
Yeah. And I had to pick it up as I went. And I will say, I was not the worst football player on that team. I was far from the best, but I was not the worst. But I ended up bulking up. I was well over 200 pounds by the end of that year.
Wow.
It's a full body transformation. I'd grown to about 160 pounds going into that year. My body was just growing. I had stretch marks up and down my thighs. Like
just how fast you were growing.
Yeah. And then how fast, when you're running 70 or 80 miles a week and you drop that, and you're 18-year-old guy pumped full of testosterone, and then you switch to just powerlifting 5 days a week and just eating till you feel sick, and then sitting in the cafeteria and waiting till you could eat again, and then eating till you feel sick again, and then getting back to your dorm room and pounding a a whey protein shake, and doing that 3 meals a day, like you can get massive.
Right.
And,
of course you can. And especially at that age when like growth is exactly what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like you basically came up, even though you didn't call it that back then, but it sounds to me like you came up in a very hybrid kind of like style of athleticism, right? Running, and obviously there's a good amount of strength training that had to happen during wrestling, right? Yeah. As well as football. And that also kind of like led you into the next stages like after that, but nobody called it hybrid training then, right?
No, I think the running in my whole life really laid that foundation, right? Like it's something that I can kind of be out of shape. 3 months later, I'm able to run again.
Yeah.
And it's just something I can always reach out and grab. Then like my coaches, they saw my first year wrestling. I put on like 20 pounds of muscle my first year wrestling. My coaches were like, no more weightlifting.
Right.
And so they made me stop because I grow muscle very, very fast for an endurance athlete. It kind of makes no sense.
So you could do like 20 push-ups and you got a pump going. And
It's nuts. So people are always like, how do you maintain all this muscle mass running like 60 miles, 70 miles a week? And I'm like, I mean, I love lifting and doing other things, but I don't lift heavy the way like a lot of guys lift heavy. Like I don't think my back can take it, so I don't mess with it that much. But I do a lot of dumbbell and a lot of kettlebell things like that. So after I played a little bit of college football, and then I was like, you know what? I ended up switching schools, and I was like, I just want to be a normal college kid. So I was, playing pickup basketball with my friends, and winning flag football intramural championships, and just lifting weights, and not running. And I didn't run through the rest of college. And when I got to graduate school, it was actually Spartan race that got me back into running.
Right.
I saw an ad on Facebook and I was like, let's go do this thing.
So Facebook was already around when you kind of like got your eyes set on trying one of those Spartan races.
Facebook started my freshman year of college.
Okay.
So like we were like the 8th or 10th school on Facebook. It was really small.
Back when it was just available for colleges.
Yeah. So I was at Bucknell University my freshman year. And so it was like all the Ivies got it first. And then Bucknell was like a Cornell adjacent.
Right.
And so it came right into Bucknell. And I just remember coming back to my dorm room and someone was like, are you on Facebook yet? And I was like, on what? And so it all kind of stemmed from there. I saw a Facebook ad a few years later because now ads are going on there. Good job, Zuck. And it was just basically like, are you strong? Are you fast? Are you tough? And I was like, I'm those things.
I like to consider myself being those things. Sure.
Yeah. And then I ran one and it was like 90-degree heat, Miami, 100% humidity. And I damn near died. Yeah. And I was like, I'm hooked. I'm into this.
It was so hard that like you actually appreciated it at the end of it.
The next day was like the first time I went out running.
Do you remember any of the events that were
in the Spartan race?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like your usual, like climb a wall, climb a rope, crawl under barbed wire. And it was like so like.
But in the hot, humid, like Miami.
Yeah. And I wasn't in running shape at all. Wow. I hadn't been running for a long time. And the next day I started running and then it was like, what's amazing, the story of it, it's all like this evolution is so funny. Then I'd been running for a few weeks and I was out for a run and I was waiting so I was living in South Florida. I was waiting at like a drawbridge.
Yeah.
And while I'm waiting there, like this like very fit looking woman runs up and she's like jogging in place, waiting for it, running back and forth, trying to stay warm. And then the drawbridge lowers and we both take off running. And she's going pretty fast. And I was like, does this woman think she's going to like outrun me right now? So I start like speeding up and she starts speeding up. And the next thing you know, and I was like, I'm not going to let this woman go by me.
Of course not.
All right. So next thing we know, we end up running 13 miles together. It's my longest run in like 5 years.
Right.
And we finished, like we were about to split off. And she goes like, we like kind of started talking during the run. She was like, we need to run again. And I was like, yeah. It turns out this woman was like 4-time Olympic trials marathoner, like
she was the one that was actually creating the pace for you that day too.
Yeah, so her name was Stacey Albuquerque. She's won the Miami Marathon. She became like my mentor, got me back into running, got me really like focused on it, like believing like it's something that I could do.
Just a random woman.
And we just started running together all the time. So I would make the trip up from University of Miami where I was going to school for grad school, and I would
at that point though, like you hadn't run in how long, you said?
I hadn't run for like 5 years.
And you just laced up and ended up doing 13 miles that day.
Yeah, I mean, it was like when you have
that's not normal, just so you know. Yeah.
I mean, I had gone on a few runs. I was a few weeks into training, but I wasn't there.
No.
And
It usually takes people a lot longer than a few weeks to get up to 13 miles.
she helped me build myself back up into like a decent runner.
Yeah.
And then Spartan race kind of just became my thing.
Yeah.
Like from there, like I tried to get her into it. She was just like, this is not, I'm a road runner. This isn't me, you know? And, you know, you see those dichotomies, like there's just athletes that are like, this is my sport. This is not my sport. And I still was really into like lifting weight. I thought I was going to do triathlon and stuff like that. And Hobie Call, who was like the forefather of like pro racing and this alternative stuff, like Hobie convinced me, sat me down after I raced against him in a race in South Florida, and he won and I took second. He was in
which is what everybody needs to, especially after that event, because I see that all the time. People's times just kind of bottoming out after the sled push, especially, you know, if not, for the lunges as well. Burpee broad jumps was my nemesis all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's a tough station, and especially in New York, where I'll be honest with you, I think it felt more like 180 meters as opposed to 80. It
feels very long.
Yeah.
It does feel very long. And yet that's one of the few stations in New York where you're like, wow, that was a good layout.
Yeah.
Like down, back. You get a breath at each of those turnarounds.
Yeah. I mean, like I said to Meg too, hairpin turns at every corner, right? For big, huge laps for my first event, a lot of people's first event, right? For somebody more seasoned like you don't have to think about that as much. But I'm like, am I going to miss a lap? I got to count every single lap. And you're not thinking about just the laps while you're running this race. Number one, you're trying to like focus on breathing. You're like trying to see where everybody is in the race and stuff. You're trying to see where your position is. You want to make sure to, come into the right entrance and make sure you exit at the right spot and get into that rock zone and not stop and not feel like, oh, okay, I can take a quick little breather because time is going, no matter what. But I was so nervous about, it actually took a little bit of the fear of the actual event away, just because I was focused on those laps. What lap am I on again? And that screen, was just glitching out, and I was like,
I mean, listen, it's a good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
That, like, what you really need to do is know your lap splits.
Yeah.
And like, I don't ever use that the screen with the list of names and the number of laps. I've never used it. I've used it 0 times. I can't even notice it. I think honestly, like, I'm running way too hard to read a list. What I can do is glance at my watch and recognize my numbers. If that number starts with a 2, I keep running. If that number starts with a 3, I'm turning in. That's
wow.
That's it.
Yeah. You have to be so tuned into your training to know that. And I think it probably, for most people, it takes a couple of races to kind of, get, understand, where you are in that. I was one of those people that went way too hard for the sled push, and not knowing what was going to happen. I was like, because I'm not built like a runner, right? I have some girth in my legs, and I know that I can push all the way through, and I'm fine. I didn't stop once. I just kind of kept going back and forth, and I'm like, it's a sled push. I do this all the time. Not a big deal.
Exactly.
Finished in 2:20, for the sled push, which was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good push.
Yeah, it was a really good push.
How was the rest of your day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why, 6 stations down, the burpee broad jumps or whatever it was, it's like, just the run directly after that, I dropped out, I think I hit like a 6 and change on my next run. It was just like,
rough.
It took a good, at least lap and a half to kind of get my legs underneath me.
Pacing is, every single station requires pacing.
Racing
requires pacing. It's just what it comes down to, and just understanding your own work rate.
Yeah.
Knowing your body.
Yeah.
And the sleds at Hyrox, man, they just hit harder than you expect them to. Like whatever you load them up with at your gym, add another 100 pounds. Yeah. And
we've heard that a lot. Like, even before we went for that race in New York, and we had a big crew of people that were going, and there was only like a handful of us that had done it before. And they were like, it ain't the same. Like, it's just not the same,
man.
It's a different kind of turf.
Hard to explain. And my first Hyrox, I made the same mistake that I made at the European Championships this year, which was like, I'm going to go win this race right now on the sled. And you're like, boom, you just hit it. You're just like, anyone who goes, I'm either going to match or exceed them.
Right.
And that is just not the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was there, man, when I saw there was guys that went in ahead of me, by at least a minute, and I just smoked them. And then I was like, ha. And then they were just lapping me on the next run. Yeah, they were like, see you later. And that's the difference, man. When you're not seasoned enough to do it. I won't do that again in Chicago. Come November.
Oh, good. You'll be in Chicago.
Oh, I'll be there, baby. Yeah. So you were in New York, man, and you had the family in New York this last time. How awesome was that to have the family there with you?
I actually had only my baby. My wife was not there.
Oh, okay.
So I originally had agreed to go to a wedding with my wife, and then New York was scheduled, and I was like, it's basically our local race in DC.
Yeah.
The closest one. It's the one we can get to without flying.
Yep.
I have like 30 athletes going up there. I was like, I gotta go. I have to go to this race. And so
you canceled on the wedding with your wife, and
she went.
Lived to tell about it.
The deal was I had to bring the baby with me.
Okay.
So I brought the baby up. It was the first time I've gone like a weekend alone with the baby, and I was really nervous. Like one of my athletes, Jenny, like she ended up splitting the room with me because she's got 2 kids, so she helped me
well, at least you had somebody to help.
A lot, and then we had Cam, who's another guy who I coach. Actually, he's a guy I started this company with. We'll get to this.
I can't wait to talk about it.
He slept on the pullout in the room too, so we piled in. And then just had a crazy baby running around because she was like 14 and a half months.
She was a hit at that event, man. She was so cute.
She was just like
she was fitting in though, man.
She was loving it. She likes being in that environment. She's like, she doesn't need a lot of like activity when she's there because she's getting so much stimulation, and I'll let her run around and get her energy out. But it was cool to have her, like, Jenny watched the baby while I ran doubles, and the doubles story is awesome. Actually, this is great because this is 2 weeks after Worlds. My back, I know I can't push my back. I had no intention after I hurt my back. After Worlds, I was like, I'm going to take some time off. I'm not really training at all. I am just going to rest. I'm going to skip the New York race. I withdrew from the pro heat because my plan was to go run a great time to start the year. You're so fit. And then I just was like, okay, we're hurt. Can't do it.
Yeah.
And then one other guy I coach, he was going to run doubles with his best friend who lives in Chicago, who'd been to Elevate 1 time. So I've met his buddy twice. I met him here 1 time, and I met him at the North American Championships.
Right on.
He just introduced himself, and that was it. So Matt, who I coach, is on an airplane coming home from a work thing out of state, and he has some kind of like excruciating pain on the airplane to the point that he is laying on the floor in the aisle of the plane, like vomiting, and then going back to the aisle to go lay.
Not a good start.
And they like drive him straight to the hospital when they land, and he has surgery. This is a week before the race, and he's and he's in the hospital for 8 days with it was like a GI thing.
And overnight, 8 days in the hospital.
He spent 8 nights in the hospital.
That sounds like an emergency.
It was a very big emergency. And he texts me to tell me what's going on. And he's like, I'm not going to be able to race, man. Like, he's like, I can tell he like still was trying to figure out like, how can I make this race happen?
Yeah, of course.
But his buddy, John Locke, who's from Chicago, this guy I've met twice, is like,
stepped up.
I didn't want to leave him hanging. So I was like, Matt, don't worry about it. I'll run with John. So I show up to the race, and I we see him the morning of the race, and they're like, good to see you, man. Like, I don't really know him at all.
Yeah, you never trained together.
And I don't know what his fitness is.
Right.
No idea.
Because you got to take the runs together, right?
You have to run together.
Yeah.
Like, you have to stay together.
Yeah.
And we kind of put out the game plan. We're going to go out nice and relaxed. We're going to gradually pick up speed. We're going to see how you feel, that kind of thing. And I was like, I'm not going to just like do everything on the stations. Like, I want you to have like a authentic Hyrox experience.
Right.
So take whatever you want at each station.
Yeah. His first Hyrox.
I think it was his first. It was definitely his first doubles. It might have been his first Hyrox. And
I didn't get to run my first Hyrox with an elite athlete. Where does this guy get off?
So as Matt described it, Matt was like, yeah, man. He's like, you get to sub out your Honda Civic for a Ferrari. And I was like, yeah, I mean a Ferrari with a flat tire, but yeah.
But still.
And so we go out, we start running, and after this, I was like, just hold back, man. Like, just hold back. And after the sled push, after the sled push, we're in 4th place. After the sled pull, we're in 2nd place. And all of a sudden, we're leading this race.
So you like felt him out, and then you kind of kept pushing a little bit more.
I would hit the stations hard, and then, but I would not. I wanted him to get his.
Yeah.
And so the next thing you know, we've broken away from the field, and we get to the rower. Turns out 2 guys in the 3rd heat, 2 teams in the 3rd heat, they photo finish and beat us. They had that, like, I don't know if you saw that photo.
I didn't know.
It's the best finish I've ever seen in Hyrox. It was like it was like the first team had like the guy that finished like first and third. Okay. And the other team had the guys who finished like second and fourth, and they all kind of dove across the line at the same time.
Oh no, I got to check it out. I got to go online.
Those guys all beat us, unfortunately, but we didn't know we were racing them. And,
right.
But John and I ended up getting on the podium. There's a banner up there that I'm really proud of, which is our like doubles.
Yep.
Third overall banner, and it's like I thought it was just so hilarious that like
just went for broke with some random guy.
Yeah, this random guy, and he brought it.
Yeah,
I honestly, it was so cool. Like I've done doubles with my wife twice, and I've thought they were two of the most memorable experiences of my life.
Yeah,
running with her and selling out with her. We won the Houston doubles. And it was just like a really special thing to share with your wife.
No, I can't wait to do it with my wife. She's got a partial knee replacement that she's getting it done soon. Run her for many, many years, and it was just time. But once she does, I know she's going to come back stronger. And she's a real athlete in our family, so I can't wait for us to just get out there, whatever we can get done. I think that she'll be ready for probably the end of 2024 season. So
I coach a woman who just had double knee replacement. Hey, she did one, and then like 6 weeks later did the other.
She's doing the same thing, but it's a year apart.
Yeah, and this woman, it's been 2 months since her second one, and she's already doing Dekas.
Amazing.
So I mean, you can get it back fast.
Yeah.
She can get it back.
Oh, she will.
And then
she's a beast. She's actually never stopped. She trains 6 days a week, on a knee that, just is absolute torture for her, and she just has the grit, she just has that thing. So I can't wait.
That's why she needs the knee replacement in the first place.
Yeah. 100% true. She didn't focus on the strength training when she was younger and she was running. It was all running. And I kind of feel like if she had, where strength training wasn't really a conversation, back then when running. And that's why I'm so happy that it is now. But you just brought up Deka, man, and I want to talk about, you guys just hosted a Deka event here, right? Was that your first one?
Yeah, we just hosted our first Deka Strong and Deka Strong teams. Oh man, it was awesome. Energy was great. I was actually surprised at how much fun I had, how well the response was. Like, I mean, the athletes really loved it. A lot of them that were skeptical were like, oh no, that was super hard. That was really fun. I mean, Deka Strong, you can really empty the tank.
A lot of first timers
in that one. And, next month there's the race up outside Philly. So, we'll have a big squad. We'll go up and run that.
Yeah, I think we'll be there for sure without a doubt.
It's funny because like people look at Deka and Hyrox and they think they're like competitive with each other, and they are. The two brands are definitely competitive against each other. They don't need to be, because was it rising tides lift all ships? Like there's room for both in the marketplace. There is, I would say that Deka is like that gateway drug.
Yeah,
like Deka is that thing that it really gets somebody who's new to this stuff in, and then they're like, okay, well, and what else is there?
Yeah.
And then being able to compare like your times to previous ones, just like Hyrox, it's a little bit more, I think it's a little bit closer to like benchmark time than Hyrox. Like Hyrox is a bit more variance,
right?
Partially just because it's so much longer. If there's one little thing off, it affects the race more significantly. But then it's like Hyrox is kind of like that pinnacle of hybrid racing, fitness racing, where we are right now. Like that's the thing you're building toward getting to, even if you're just in Dekas right now. And you also need an off season from Hyrox. Like you can't just run Hyrox 12 months a year.
But if somebody from Hyrox is looking for a similar event in Deka, is that Deka Fit?
Yes. I mean, so yeah, because Deka Fit's going to be like the 10 rounds of 500 meters of running in between. But the speed is so different. Like you are running fast, comparatively. Like when I run, I tell people, like if I'm training, if I'm doing like a Hyrox sim in the studio, I might be running like 10.8 miles per hour. Simming, it's a pretty good pace. I'm running like 540 pace, maybe a little faster, maybe 536. And if I'm simming for Deka, I'm running 12 and a half miles an hour. So like it's a totally different running experience. The way it hits your legs is different. The way it hits your lungs is different.
Which is why all of these events are actually better for somebody who's got a running base already, and very rarely does it happen the other way around. Everybody that I've talked to has got a history with running, whether they ran in high school, they ran competitively in college, or random, running with random people in the middle of the street, after, not running at all.
Running is, what runners have is the ability to process lactate.
Yes.
And you have that general endurance, that ability to oxygenate your muscles, like all of these things that
requires time to actually build up into that. Do you think that's something like
muscle, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's great bang for your buck, like training and running, and then like it's great. It just translates over. Like I tell people all the time, like if you like lifting weights, you should run more because it will help you recover between lifts.
Right.
Just being able to have that. And so, yeah, the running is an amazing base. We're seeing, though, there's a number of swimmers who have transitioned very well for the same reason.
Right.
For the exact same reasons that they're transitioning well. Except I think they're naturally stronger than runners. So they have some of that benefit as well. You know, swimmer, you're not moving through air. You're moving through water.
Yeah.
Like,
there's resistance for sure.
yeah, you have to have great strength. So Alexander Roncevic and Vivian Tafudo, like these are athletes who grew up swimming their whole lives.
Roncevic built like a swimmer. You could tell.
He is. He's lean, but it's dense muscle.
Yeah. It's dense, just wide lats like all the way through. That's why he's like on those sled pulls, man. He's just an absolute beast. It's unbelievable.
He is, and he's phenomenal on the skier too.
Yes.
And so you see a lot of swimmers.
That's a swimmer's event.
I mean, that's it. It's like that ability to rip. It's almost like they're doing butterfly.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. What's the time to be competitive with you guys for those skiers? Being the first event out, it's not like you guys are doing the things that we're doing, because we're like, lay back a little bit on the skier, you know, so you can save a little in the tank.
I mean, I lay off, man. I prefer to lay off. When I don't lay off, I get the engine running too hot too early. Like,
gotcha.
It's a long race, man. It's like I'm not going to sprint the first mile of a marathon. Like I'm not. It's just.
What's a layoff number for you?
I like to be like 149 or so. If I'm under 150, I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is I'm not trying to set any records on the skier. I'm trying to basically feel good coming off it. I want an adequate time and feel good.
And just get on with the race.
Yeah. And then just get moving and like the race begins after the sleds.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah. Some people even say that it begins after the rower.
I mean, that's when the suffer really starts.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's also when you can turn on the jets, though, right? Depending on how you feel, you can kind of get a gauge on like how you feel at the rower, and then all of a sudden you can kind of just say, okay, this is where I can really, really push, or I may need to like lay back a little bit.
If you look at if you go back to the splits of like my North American Championship race, I'm pretty much putting on the jets for every run, the entire race. Yeah. But then hitting the stations decently.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to win every station. I'm winning every run.
Right. And so when you won the championship, then that's when you just knew you were having a good day and you were like, all right, I'm just going in.
It was like my back feels good.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's all it took.
Good. I like my fitness is so high right now. Like I was like, nobody can touch me on the runs.
Right.
And so like, you know, the only person who was even remotely close on the running that day was Dylan.
Yeah.
And even then it was like, and the runs that mattered, the last few runs of the race, it was like, oh, I just put another 8 seconds on you. Oh, I just put another 7 seconds on you. When I needed to hit the gas, I had another gear to go to that no one else had. And that was, you know, it was like Dylan and I laid off. We raced very similarly, which is like stay within our work rate and like understanding that like you're really racing the clock when you're running these races. And so if you're racing the clock, you really just need to run your splits. Yeah. And you can get caught up in racing other people. And I've had plenty of races where I've been guilty of that. But at North American Championships, my plan was just like, well, just run your best race, and you know what's going to happen. You'll be in striking distance when it matters. And then when I all of a sudden was in second place at the burpee broad jump.
Yeah.
This is earlier than I anticipated being in striking distance. And that was like, I was a little concerned about that, but I thought to myself, I came off the sled pulling third, and I passed Ryan Kent coming into the rock zone after that run.
And you knew that going into it? Like you knew you could follow that while you're racing?
I knew I was in third.
Okay. Is that just somebody like kind of coaching from the outside, kind of yelling at you and saying,
well, remember, because you're lined up in the grid, right? So you don't know during the sled push and the sled pull exactly who's where, but as people start peeling off,
okay, then you can see them.
You start seeing the empty lanes.
Yeah.
And so I knew that Kent and Sandbach were 1-2. I was not sure about anybody else until all of a sudden I finished my sled pull and I was like, I'm out of here. And the guys in lanes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they're all still there. And I was like, whoa. And all of a sudden, you know, now I'm saying I'm in third place. I feel incredible. there is not a chance anyone's going to run me down from behind. So I knew then already I'm on the podium.
Yeah.
But when I finished that run, I'm already passing Kent, and now I'm in second. And I'm saying to myself, if I just caught him, I am winning this race.
Yeah.
And so it was like, some days you just know, like everything clicks, but also you look around and, you know, I had the good fortune that Sandy and Kent tried to kill each other in the beginning of that race. They really just like were throwing gut punches at each other.
You're like, let me let these guys fight it out.
I think I would have won regardless because I just think that the way, like I was going to close on anybody that day, but I was making up 20 to 25 seconds per run. I mean, these are very significant numbers.
Yeah.
These are not.
Yeah, it really adds up, especially after 8 events. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
We see that. What are your some of your hopes for the Hyrox event specifically, kind of like moving into the future? Like, what do you want to see with that show, with that production moving forward?
There's a few things. I think, you know, first and foremost, I'd like to see a qualification system that shifts away from time.
Okay.
Because there are just too many variables when it comes to time. So the only way that time can be used is if everyone is getting that time at the same venue on the same day.
Right.
And so I would like to go to seeing regional qualifiers where, you know, X amount of guys in the regional qualifier on the West Coast and X amount of guys in the regional qualifier on the East Coast, they get spots to race in the North American Championship, and the same in Europe. And then you have X amount of guys and girls and females. They qualify at the North American Championships to go to World Championships, and from the European Championships to go to World Championships. And then we do last minute qualifiers, last chance qualifiers.
So all based on a point system that kind of spans out the entire season.
Not points, races. Specific races. I think you need to race your way into World Championships. It's the way.
Right.
And we need to, just like the CrossFit Games has, you show up to regionals or sanctionals or whatever they call it, and you have to finish in top 10 or whatever position to move on. And if you don't, we'll give you another competition to qualify. You get a last chance qualifier. Like, we need to get to the point that these events have real stakes beyond just top 3 people, where then those same people can keep other people from qualifying. And then we're going to an arbitrary measurement like time where, well, this course was 2 laps and this course was 4 laps and this course had a 4-minute sled and this course had a 2-minute
fine
sled.
for like the weekend warriors and stuff, and the guys that are kind of like, it's a hobby side thing just for fun. They're going out with friends and just having a good time. But for the athletes that are going out, do you think that event should kind of be almost like separated in a way?
Well, you know, we do the separate events for the grid courses.
Yeah.
We do like the championship races, but I actually think that it should be less exclusive.
Okay.
What they are doing now is Hyrox is very much built on this idea of like Elite 15, and these are the only 15, and we're gating this race at 15 people. But doing that at the beginning of the season makes no sense to me. I think you should give the most athletes out there the most chances to race against each other and to race in big stakes events, because what you're really going for is you want to see the best athletes out there, and it's not just the people that ran the fastest on the fastest courses. You want to see people go head to head and battle, and you want everyone to have a fair shake. I think equity and fairness is such a critical element. And you want the guy who maybe has only run 2 races and is less experienced but has great potential. I want that athlete to have a shot. Yeah. I want the athlete who's the 17th best in the world to have a chance to have a great day and finish 6th.
Yeah.
And
that's racing.
Right? That's why we run the races, right? And so I would like to see non-gated events and run them on standard format and just say, okay, you need to have a cut line or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the minimum time you have to run to get into this race. You can run that at any race in the region or the country or the continent.
Yeah.
And that gives you your shot to now go race. And maybe we have to have 50 people in a heat, or maybe we run 2 heats or 3 heats or 4 heats.
Right.
But we take the 5 or 10 fastest people that day on that course where the conditions were the same for everybody. And that is just a great way to choose or to select teams, just like you would, like the argument's always made, like, well, every marathon course is different. You're right. But then the Olympic trials qualifier, everyone runs on the same course on that day. And that
distance is also the same always.
Right? Always. Yeah. And the Hyrox, they to their credit, they really do believe, and they probably are right, that the distance on most of these courses should be dead on. But mistakes are made. But if something's wrong with the course, but it's the qualifying course. It doesn't matter. Like, look at the North American Championships versus the European Championships.
Yeah.
I won in 59:11, and only 2 athletes broke an hour.
Right.
In the European Championships, multiple athletes broke 58. It was 57 something. Right. And so the same athletes.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of these courses don't run the same. Yeah. Even the way they were laid out was totally different. One of the courses.
Where's the variance the most? Is it the turf?
Sleds were a minute and a half different in total. That's pretty substantial. Yeah. And then on top of that, there are differences in the number of laps that you're running, differences in the size of the rock zone, differences in the European Championships in Maastricht, the opening run was like 500 meters because all the other runs were like 1100.
Yeah.
So like it's a different race.
Yeah.
And then some races like New York that we ran, it's 4 laps plus an extra turn. So it's 17 turns per 1,000 meters. Turning
a lot more time turning.
Takes time. Mm-hmm. And so again, for me, I want to see the qualifications change to a system that is more equitable. Also in terms of like, it's not equitable also from a financial standpoint for people. Like if you're racing in the United States, your flights are $600 or $800 a piece. If you're racing in Europe, it's $60. And get on Ryanair, $80. You live in the UK, you get on a train, right? And so there is a lack of equity that will improve. The more races pop up, the more that equity that gap will close.
Yeah.
And so we want to see growth in the sport. And I think regionalizing the races a bit more and having regional race systems that matter to keep people racing in their local events as much as possible, and then giving themselves 1 or 2 big events a year, I think is the key.
Then all we got to do is figure out how to get you into the boardroom so you can actually talk to the bigwigs about it and kind of get this thing passed. So hopefully that conversation will start.
And the last thing is broadcasts.
Yeah.
I think they did an excellent job with the World Championships, but I want to see broadcast at a very high level live at the majors. And then for the other events, it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but we need to get consistent live coverage, find ways to work sponsors in. If you get increased sponsorship, if you can add team racing, that teams can be sponsored.
Sponsorship doesn't seem to be an issue though right now, as far as like them getting some of the attention. Is it maybe just in the types of sponsorships that they're? I mean, where's the money getting pulled from? It's all going to be in the same, in the same pool. Bringing in, more brands or more sponsorships, on that level is I guess the important part of that is going to be, how is that distributed, right? Is it going specifically just to media? Is it going towards more of the production, or is it going to the athletes?
Well, and that's the big thing. And so I think if you look at the way sponsorship is done in sports, there are a few different levels of sponsorship. There is, if you watch the NFL or let's use the NBA as an example. If you watch NBA, there are sponsors on the court. The NBA is making that money, right? And so like in soccer, you see like on the walls around the perimeter, there's sponsors there's logos on the athletes themselves, right? Those guys, that's also going to the team. The individual team is making that money, just like they might be on the one on the court. The NBA is taking a rev share of some of that. And then you have the actual broadcast and you have commercials, and that is NBA is making that money, or the local, you also have like the local broadcast company, like they're making money off of it. And then they're paying for the broadcast rights. And so there's all these different ways. And then of course there is the athletes who are so high profile, they reach a level of high profile where they then can have their own endorsements that are actually significant. Yeah. And because the teams are making enough money, they're able to then compensate the players at a high level.
You're right. The live broadcast would definitely be huge for everybody involved, not only for the sponsorships, because they're going to actually see value in that, but also for the athletes to be able to also get some attention from some sponsors as well.
And I don't think it all has to be live. Like live is great, especially for the major races. But, if you ever watched the Elite 12 race, it was not live. And yet it's an incredible display of like an exciting race. They could have put a lot of sponsorship behind it because it lives evergreen. That is content you could watch that anytime. And that was my first race back from having fractured my shin. So I was like, I don't know what my fitness is going to be and all that. And like everything came together that day. Yeah. And, Chicago was just like a magical day, which the only thing I feel bad about that day was that I then got so swept up in like all the mayhem of like the awards and the interviews and everything that I missed like most of my athletes running. And then like I like got done and I came back down to like go see who was still around.
Yeah.
And they were like just taking a group photo. And I was like, yeah,
I'm here.
I'm here. And it was like, mob scene, but it was, like,
well, that's one of the best things about that event, though, is that even though you train and you're together there as a group and you're cheering everybody on, it's just you out there, unless you're doing like doubles or you're doing the relay or something like that. It's you and it's your race. So whether or not you can hear somebody like in the background that's kind of like cheering you on, that they're there. When you're in it, it's kind of hard to focus on the outside of it. And I felt nervous about that, and I wanted to be there for the crew that I went in there with, and I wanted to be there for my family that had joined us to be there, and our close friends who drove from Pennsylvania and on their way home stopped just to kind of watch the race, and I was like, I want to put on a show for these guys, and I want to do really, really well, and I hope that I did well by them, judging by what they I could have I could have come in last. I could still be running that race, and they'd be like, "You're doing great."
Well, it's a thing. So like the way I talk about racing for me is totally different than the way that I talk about racing for you or the athletes that I coach. It's like, listen, like I'm racing other people as much as I'm racing the clock, and you're not racing other people. You don't have to worry about those people. Like you're on
a great way to look at it.
You're on a personal journey. You are like, it is you against you. It is you getting better. It is you fighting demons.
Yes.
It is you. So I've got another guy I coach, and I was trying to explain it to him, like why did I not drop out of the world championships? Because like building up like who you are as a racer and as an athlete is about being battle tested and fighting battle after battle after battle, and some battles are harder than others, and all of those things make you a better athlete and a better racer, and they make you mentally stronger, and you're just it comes down to like I had one of those days where I was no longer racing the people in the field, right? You're racing yourself, and that's the journey.
Yeah. You actually almost kind of could have just felt a little bit more like kind of a relief, and at that point, outside of all the pain that you were going through.
It was a lot of pain. There was no relief. It was over.
When it was over.
It was over. But the thing is, then I also knew I finished, and I like pulled myself together, and I was like, oh great, I have like 12 hours, and I have to run it again with my wife.
That's right.
So
do the doubles. Yeah,
we had to do doubles, and I was fortunate. I woke up and my back was not spasming anymore, so we were able to run. And
which is odd after I had to sleep the entire night in a strange like hotel in a bed that's not yours. And
and I mean, good warm up and just running easier. But there's also like people are like, well, how come you were able to run that race? Well, I mean, my wife flew all the way to Europe for this race.
Yeah, maybe it was just the adrenaline. Not going to be there for my wife. Yeah,
I'm not going to leave her hanging. Oh my God, not race. I told her, I may run slow. I did run slow. We were like not as good. We finished faster than our first doubles race, but I was not as good. She was better than in the first one. She carried us more.
Yeah. But the memory of that is going to last forever, man. It's a life.
It's 100% worth all the pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How many people that come and they join you here for training got involved just because they saw how excited you were, for the event, and how many of them did you actually have to like coax into it and say like, come on, you can do it, like, get behind it? And
I think I had to coax most of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I had to coax most people that do this, but I'm like, come on, man, you already run marathons, or like, you already do this, like you already do that. And then like, I'm constantly having to pull teeth to get them to do it. But at the same time, like it's incredible. Like once they do one, like I had a guy tell me, he's like, it's almost like I had an awakening. And you're like,
I can totally understand that. I said that to my wife the second I finished the second I finished, and I knew that I didn't do as well as I wanted to do, and I knew that it was the first one. I'm still trying to figure out the course and everything.
Better.
Right. It was like this new door that I had, that I opened, and I was like, there's a whole new level of fitness behind this. And I actually noticed it a lot now, like in post race, right? Like where post game, where like I'm exactly. Yeah. Can't wait to chase those. Where like, even when I'm running and you're doing that whole thing where you're negotiating with yourself, and whether it's 5 miles or 10 miles and you're having a bad run. I had one the other day, humidity was, like through the roof, and I'm spiking at like 180, like not even sprinting, and my heart rate's just going, bananas. And I could have stopped if I wanted to. I wasn't racing. I was just in the preserve, like near, our home, like a nice, like casual zone 2 run. should have been. And I just didn't do that. You know, I don't do that. I don't play that negotiating with myself anymore. Like, I'm out here to do a thing, you know, and it's you know, it's like my job, and I'm going to work, you know.
It's very David Goggins-esque.
Yes, it was. Yeah, without all the intensity, you know, I didn't need that. It was way too humid for all that intensity. But it's totally true, man. Who's coming up next? Who can you see out there that you're looking at it from a much different lens than we are? Not necessarily your competition, but who should we be looking at now, kind of like that's coming up the pipe?
Well, I've got a guy that I work with here who I've been training with, coaching, co-working with for over 8 years, Eric Williams. He took second in the New York race.
Yeah, he did.
He won the opening heat. He just didn't know there were other guys to race.
Unbelievable.
You know? So as I told him, that was the second Hyrox, and I said, you know, you would have won that race if you were in that other heat, because he lost that race by 30 seconds, and or 30 seconds, 40 seconds, I think, 40 seconds, and he was a minute. No, he lost the race by 30 seconds. He was 42 seconds slower in the rock zone than the guy who won.
Yeah.
So that was it. He outran him and outstationed him and lost the rock zone. And so...
And you can look back at that data now and say, here's where we're going to make some adjustments. And,
And Pelayo, who won, is a good runner. He's a good athlete. He's been getting better. And so he's another guy who's going to be, you know, improving. He's here. But
they got any fall races coming up?
Fall races?
For these guys, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we get Eric into like Chicago. That's the goal. That's the goal, is get him to run Chicago. I think Eric has sub 60 potential.
Wow.
And he's 40 years old, and he's a
strong age group.
It's a strong age group. The guy he has the ability to run, compromised. He has great strength. And
what's his background? His background running as well?
Yeah, he was more of a middle distance runner, but he does everything, you know, like he did very well in a 50 miler a few years ago. And again, he's just been training with me with my style, my methods for 8 years, and goes in and runs his second Hyrox and takes second overall. Like he
unbelievable.
The guy just has the ability to suffer. Yeah. And that's what we do here. Like we teach you how to suffer.
That's great. I love that kind of experience. Dude, on that note, I definitely got to crack one of these open, man. I got to taste this.
They're a little warm now.
No, it's all right. We can go into it. I still got a nice little chill on mine. Tell me a little bit about Postgame. You said you started this with a buddy of yours?
Yeah, so my buddy Cam and I originally started this. The idea was, you know, like have a better alternative for when you finish working out and you want to go enjoy yourself. And so this is a hard seltzer. It's 5% ABV.
Nice.
But we did sneak some protein in there. There's 7 grams of protein in each can. And there are, we say minerals. Another word that people use for the minerals specifically that we put in there are electrolytes. So it's
which is exactly what you need for the next day, so you don't feel all the 5% ABV in there.
Yeah, and
it's not much more than a beer, right? Beers are anywhere between 3 and 5.
About a beer.
Yeah.
And the difference is, this would be like drinking 2 Gatorades with your beer.
Oh wow!
And then also having some protein in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of potassium, magnesium, calcium.
Where are we able to find these guys?
And sodium. They're really just in DC right now. We're this is our pilot launch. We put out our first 12,000 cans. Yeah. And
the fact that there is alcohol though in it is going to make it a little bit hard to get these online, right?
Yeah, you can't really yet, but look, we're doing our best to grow this thing, and it's slow growth, and you know we'll be DC, Maryland, Virginia, very very soon, and then like from there, you know we'll see what happens with Postgame, but I think the big thing here is like fit people are looking for something that like kind of suits their needs, but it's not. It's like we encourage everything in moderation. Like work out hard, enjoy yourself, have a couple. Don't go drink a case of these.
You're going to have a drink. You might as well make something that's got some electrolytes in it, that's got some protein in it.
Yeah, I'm not like saying, oh, this is like a healthy drink, because it's still alcohol. But the reality is like...
I'm digging it. I got to go in.
So you're drinking the pineapple. That's pineapple. This is wild berry.
The wild berry is definitely going to be my jam. Without doubt.
You're swapping.
Oh, we're gonna swap.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
cool. Let's swap.
You can swap. That's very berry.
I like very berry. Actually,
I'll let you
just
I'll
like
let
that
you try
too.
both. You can.
I'll try them both. Pineapple has never really been my thing, but I'll try.
I'll drink the pineapple. That's fine.
All right, salute,
Cheers.
man.
Cheers.
Here's to you. Oh, bro, that's delicious.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
That's really, really good, actually. And it goes down really smooth. I thought it was going to be more carbonated than it actually is. And it's not. It's actually really smooth.
The protein is actually like a smoothing agent. So it actually makes it like less bubbly.
Yeah. But that makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
You carbonate on a level of 1 to 10. We carbonate at an 8, but the protein makes it hit like a 6.
Here you go, Daniel. Something for all your post-pickleball games.
Oh, perfect for pickleball.
You and the pickleball crew
Yeah.
can get in there. But these are absolutely delicious, man. Post-game hard seltzer.
Celebrate your wins. That's our whole concept there. Like everybody's got something to celebrate in life, right?
Wow.
Maybe it's a race you won. Maybe it's just a workout that you crushed. Maybe it's a promotion at work. Whatever.
Yeah. Post-game.
Celebrate the right way.
I love the name. I was actually talking with him on the car ride here from New York, and I was like, the name is perfect, for this. How long between like conceptualizing this thing and kind of like the idea did you guys actually have a product ready in a can to go?
So Cam, it was originally his idea. He came to me. He was like, I need investors. And then by the time we finished talking that day, he was like, no, I don't want an investor. I want a partner. And so he conceptualized it. He had started working with a flavor company on designing flavors. And then when I came on board, I convinced Cam that we needed to pull out of the manufacturer that we were in. We located a different manufacturer. We switched manufacturers.
And that's all through tasting and testing
and just like, schedules and weighting and cost analysis. And we just decided like, okay, we're going to make new labels. We're going to change the name of some of the flavors. We're going to go to a new manufacturer. We got, we revamped the website.
But it's always been post-game.
Post-game has been, it really spoke to me. It really did.
It makes the most sense.
And I thought to myself, I was like, when you finish like a marathon or a 5K or a Spartan race and they hand you a drink and it's like either a beer that you don't really want or a Mike's Hard Lemonade or something like that.
You don't drink beer, like me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is a perfect drink for me.
And so for me, it's like, well, I can't think of a better drink to have like at the end of a race. Like it's like a little sweet, but not overwhelmingly so. It's got like some of the things that my body actually wants.
Yeah.
I want a little booze. It's like, so for me, it's ideal. So I've been drinking these after some of my workouts and just
But like, drink responsibly, kids. Let's be serious.
I didn't say chug these. Drink a couple.
So I'm not funneling post games at any time soon.
Yeah, please no funneling. Like everything in moderation. Drink responsibly. Like I honestly
really are delicious.
Really believe in that. So
yeah, I've tried a bunch of products. I got friends that are in the online social media influence kind of thing, and they're constantly like pushing, stuff on me. It's like, oh, try this new Tropic, drink, or try this or try that. They're sending it to them. I'm like, this is trash. This is so bad. I'm like, there's absolutely no value in it at all. The fact that this has electrolytes in it, makes me happy. But
we've had crazy response. Like I think I didn't expect it to taste as good as it does. I was just really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And, I think people expect it to be like thick, viscous protein.
Just because of the protein, right?
Yeah, but it's smooth, like you said. Like it's light and it's smooth and it's refreshing, and so that's our whole idea is like it's like refresh and relax and just enjoy it. Cool.
I love it, man. You guys did a great job with the product. And how many flavors total do we have now?
Right now, it's just these 2 flavors, pineapple and wild berry. We're going to look to expand on the next run and see how things go. But right now, the growth has been great, and we've been picked up at a number of bars in DC, but we're also in Streets grocery chains. So that's like
cool. That's the one out here.
That's the one out here. Yeah, there's one in this building actually. That's how we got the connection. Yeah. And so it's selling really well. Our members have been going nuts for it.
Right on.
Obviously, people were throwing whole 4th of July parties with it.
Well, we definitely expect an invite when you guys launch in New York, all right? Because I'm sure that's probably going to happen at some point once you guys get past that Maryland mark and stuff. And
New York is definitely high on our list of places to go.
And
then we're looking at warm weather places as well. So we would love to get into Florida and some southern states where people are drinking seltzers year round.
Yeah, it sure are, man. It was such a pleasure talking with you. I'm so happy that we had an opportunity to come out here and experience you inside your space. Go ahead and tell everybody like where everybody can find you. I'm sure people are going to have, you know, some questions in regards to like where they can kind of like follow along and see what your journey is going to be moving forward.
Yeah. You can find me at Train at Elevate. That's going to be, trainatelevate.com. That's our website. At David Magida, my personal handle, or at Train at Elevate is our gym handle. You can follow those. Don't forget Drink Postgame. That's our Instagram here. And I think there's an underscore at the back end. We're fighting over the Instagram handle right now. But
if they want it, they'll find you. Trust me.
You'll find it. You'll find it. And then, you know, you can also check out my online training programs, Magida Peak Performance. So that's like another great thing.
Nice.
I do those for fitter. And there's a link in my Instagram profile. You can find it pretty easily. Get a discount there when you sign up. And
cool.
Yeah, man. I know. Hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot of each other at some of these.
We didn't get a chance to get our workout in today, man, but we definitely will at some point. I can definitely see coming back here. It was such an easy drive getting here, man. It's only, you know, a few hours away from New York. We got to keep the whole hybrid East Coast thing, you know, moving, man. I want to encourage more people to do it, but it was really, really awesome having you. And really, really, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for coming.
All right, absolutely.
Had a good time.
Yeah, pleasure's all ours. Trust me.